I'm here today with Matt Chinnery, who is a cybersecurity expert.
If you don't think you're ever going to be attacked, then accept the fact that you either have been and you just don't know it, or someone's in the process of doing it right now. So my name's Matt Chinnery. I've been working in cybersecurity now for well over 15 years. Currently work for a company called ZeroFox that do external threat and impersonation detection. And so yeah, I'm here today to talk to you about that.
Threats. Talk to us about threats. Are they increasing? If they are increasing, why are they increasing?
Yeah, absolutely. So unfortunately, in today's world, with everything being so attainable through the internet and everyone being connected on various social media sites, there's a lot of threats out there. Unfortunately, threat actors, as they are known, prey on the vulnerable, prey on people's lack of knowledge and understanding. And at the end of the day, all they're trying to do is one of two things. They're trying to defraud people out of money, or make money off of, just bad mouthing people or selling stuff on the dark web.
And so recently I shared about how my notarial seal was impersonated by a fraudster. What would you say, as a professional person, we can be doing to minimize some of these threats from external parties?
No, absolutely. I think the first thing that everybody can do is to appreciate that, if you're not being targeted today, or if you're not being hacked at this very minute, then you are a target. Everybody is a target, and everybody is under threat at some level. Even your mum or your grandma or whomever. And so I think just having understanding that it's happening and to be slightly aware. And once you've made that distinction to understand that, everyone is a target, and to sort of give yourself a little bit of, understanding that, is this actually real? Then the job at hand can then, at least you're 50% of the way there. I think at that point you can then, use a lot more common sense. Some obviously bigger enterprise customers are employing different types of software and hardware, stuff such as ZeroFox, other technologies out there to combat this threat, to know what's out there. Because it's very difficult to know what is external from an organization and what is a threat and what isn't a threat. So, I think the first thing is to appreciate and accept the fact that, if you haven't been attacked, or, if you don't think you're ever going to be attacked, then accept the fact that you either have been and you just don't know it, or someone's in the process of doing it right now.
Got it. So the first step is to be aware, and I guess with some sort of radar looking out for these sorts of things.
Yeah, I think so. And it's very difficult because, unfortunately, these kind of phishing attacks, as they are known, or impersonations on social media, are getting very, very, very good. So it's almost like you almost need to question everything. I think having been in cybersecurity now for as long as I have, I don't trust anybody, which is maybe a failing in one sense, but it also allows me to sort of get proper judgment on everything that I see. And so, yeah, it is a difficult fine line between saying that, I'm just going to be that paranoid and not trust anything, and also just get a bit of common sense in there and go, is this the right path to follow? To look at what happened to yourself with your seal, that's a very difficult thing for you to have known that was going to happen, because you weren't involved in that side of it. It was a transaction that happened from somebody else, but I guess you can, help the situation and your colleagues in the arena by not advertising your seal online, not putting it where someone can get a very easy copy of it. Because, as I say, the technology is there now that anything that's on the internet is fair game, and you need to make sure that you're not giving these threat actors, giving these criminals an easy way in.
Now, we were talking earlier about the fact that many people have information about their organizations and potentially their clients out in some type of public arena without being aware of it. Can you just explain like how that would happen?
Absolutely. I mean, it's one of those things. Everyone has cloud storage, and natively we kind of assume that cloud storage is secure, and for the most part it is. But there are elements of cloud storage where, you know, I don't want to get too technical for this forum, but where you've got like an S3 data bucket, which essentially is a, you know, as the name implies, it's a bucket of data that sometimes are publicly accessible. What that basically means is anybody, me, you, anyone in the audience today, if they, you know, knew how to find it, they could find it. And you know, you just need to make sure that you're putting in mitigations, and you're aware, you work closely with your security team or your IT provider to make sure that anything that's out there on a cloud resource is safe and secure. You know, make sure that you're employing things like two-factor or multi-factor authentication. You know, it's one of those things that if I put in a password, it's going to ask me for another code. We generally do that with banking apps today, but everything can have that function to make sure that if you have got stuff out there, because you need it out there, because obviously you need to collaborate with people all across the world in some instances, but you need to make sure that only the right eyes can get to it.
So solicitors and people who are notaries will become privy to very confidential information. So people's bank statements, their identity documents. What are some practices that we could put in place to keep this information secure when it's being shared over the internet to us, or we are keeping copies of that information in our systems?
No, absolutely. I mean, you know, very simple things can help. Make sure that if there is documents that are being shared via email, that they're password protected. Make sure they're password protected when they come into you and when they obviously leave you. You know, it's just good practice to make sure that at the very least you've got that, so that if someone does intercept an email in flight, they're not going to be able to get into the documentation. If you've got stuff in, you know, in the building, so to speak. Again, if it's on some kind of internal mechanism, it's on a server or something, just make sure that that is secure. That's getting backed up regularly, you know, because again, good practice states you don't want to lose all that information, and you probably have, you know, requirements to keep that data for X number of years anyway. So you want to make sure that you've got a good backup process in place. Make sure that, you know, again, only the actual people that need to have access to that data can get to it. So if you've got 2 or 3 members in your organization that need access, that they have access, but anybody else doesn't have access to that particular like private information, especially if it's being stored in-house. Again, if it's being stored in a cloud storage, just make sure that there are basic security provisions in place, multi-factor authentication, you know, just to sort of, again, it's that sort of proving who you are. You know, if you think about it in basic terms, when you unlock the door to your office or your home, that's the key you need to get into the building, but you still got to turn the alarm off. So if you put that into practice, you know, I can get to the file, but to actually access the file, I've now got to put in my alarm code in order to have that file available to me. And that, I think that's pretty much the most secure you can be. You know, make sure you've got if you want to, have a hard copy. But again, if you've got a hard copy, you've got to be very, very careful about where that's secured. Make sure that's in a filing cabinet, it's under lock and key. You're the only person that's got the lock and key. You know, because unfortunately, everyone, as I said right at the beginning of this conversation, everybody's a target, and at the end of the day, the final outcome is normally fraud or financial gain. And so we need to protect that at all costs.
So what I'm hearing is that whether you're in a big law firm where there are resources, IT resources, or you're a smaller practitioner, it might be a good idea from time to time to have an IT audit, which is probably something that most people either don't think about or don't have time to do, particularly if you're a smaller practitioner and you're really busy, running your legal matters.
I think that's absolutely true, and I think we may have spoken about this before. At the end of the day, you've got to keep the lights on. You're doing your day job. You want IT just to work for you, but you need to make sure that there are those basic provisions. There are some very good organisations around the world that are managed like service providers that have a layer of security built into them. So if you don't even have a dedicated IT department because you're not a big enterprise law firm, you can actually outsource a certain level of your IT functions to a third party organization that will make sure that have the skill sets to make sure that your business runs securely and safely at all times. But absolutely, I think, in this modern world, we need to make sure that we're thinking of absolutely every possible angle, be that from actually taking a document off of someone's desk, taking a document out of a screenshot that someone's happened to post online, right the way through to actually gaining access and removing those documents. And make sure that there's an audit trail of some sort. Make sure that you know either who accessed that document or at least who it was supposed to be, so that you know who has potentially been compromised in one way or another. With such solutions, including ZeroFox, we can actually go and proactively look for email addresses and password combinations that are being sold on the dark web. So, it may be such as simple as one of your team has been compromised completely externally from work on maybe a social media platform or on a streaming service, and they just so happen to use their email address and password, which is either the same or very similar to their corporate credentials. What that then leads to is two things. It's either what's known as credential stuffing or it's brute force attacks. What that basically means in layman's terms is I'm going to try as many combinations as I can about this password. So let's just, for argument's sake, and it never should be, let's just say your password is password123. I'm going to try with a capital letter, I'm going to try 456, I'm going to try 321, I'm going to try all these different combinations because, and it is human nature, unfortunately, we recycle about 6 passwords throughout our sort of lifetime by either adding a character, taking a character away. And I think if everyone's honest with themselves, they'll agree that, we generally don't have, because passwords and access to things are sometimes that's the annoyance. I've got to add a password in again. I've got to put my password in to get to that thing. But if you just took a couple of seconds and made sure that they were unique and secure, a lot of these problems would be mitigated at least.
So just before we go, Matt, can you give us a little bit of background about what you like about this area and, what you do on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, sure. I think at the end of the day, I always say to my kids, I'm keeping the internet safe, which is probably a bit of a, it kind of dumbs it down somewhat. But it's basically every day is different because every day there are new threats coming at us. There are new ways that threat actors are looking to get this data, to steal this data and defraud individuals. And every day you're surprised and horrified in some cases as to what data has been breached and how they've done it. In some ways, it's the simple things that really sort of surprise me the most. That somebody can literally, click on a link and all of a sudden there's keyloggers on their machine. There's botnet logs on their machine. What that basically means is then a person, a threat actor, has all of your passwords and can impersonate you on everything that you've got on your machine. Even to the point that if you change your password, this sophisticated piece of software will update the password that they are selling on the dark web. And it's looking around, finding these different threats. And what I generally find exciting is that the way that this stuff emerges and changes on a day-to-day basis, and my job keeps me very busy because obviously I'm trying to assist organisations in appreciating where these threats come from, that they aren't necessarily something that they know today because they're not that that easy inbound outbound vector. It's not that exfiltration of data. It's what's actually happening one step removed from that. And yeah, it keeps me on my toes, and every day's a different challenge.
Got it. Thank you. And we're very lucky to have you here today, Matt, because you are in fact based in the United Kingdom at the moment. Is that correct?
Absolutely, it is. If my accent didn't give it away, I absolutely am in the UK. Yes.
I'm just going to ask this, and I know that your firm, what's it called, Zero Fox?
Yes, Zero Fox.
Are there technicians in Zero Fox that, if they wanted to, would know how to hack into computer systems?
Absolutely. We actually have individuals that are effectively, what the term is a white hat hacker.
Well, professional hacker.
Professional hacker, but an ethical hacker. They're on the side of the good guys. They have access into various locations in the deep and dark, dangerous underworld, and are able to interact. Absolutely. There are people that do it for good, but there are unfortunately more people that do it for bad and self-gain.
And is it hard for legal justice systems to prosecute these people?
Well, it kind of is, because you could be at a computer anywhere in the world. I mean, you and I are on opposite sides of the world right now having this conversation, and so it's about, and there's technology out there to obfuscate IP addresses and locations. So, actually prosecuting somebody, not only have you got to know where they are, but you've got to be able to see what they did. And if they're hiding their tracks well enough, which, let's face it, a good hacker should be, or threat actor should be, it's very difficult to get enough evidence. I'm not saying it's impossible, and it's not my area of expertise, obviously, but prosecution, you've got to find proof, and to find proof, you've got to catch somebody in the act, and so that's increasingly difficult, because to actually let's say to actually interact with one of these actors and buy information off of them, you both have to be accepted into these underground forums. And unfortunately, law enforcement and certain individuals that pretend to be threat actors stick out like a sore thumb. And so threat actors generally will shy away from those guys. So to get the proof, to get the evidence, can be very, very difficult.
Thank you very much, Matt. Great to speak with you, and we look forward to speaking with you again.
No problem. Thank you for your time, Paula.